That's weird. Hey, Jerry, can you change the camera setting? It's got the overhead is what I'm seeing on Zoom, which is weird.
We don't have any adjustment up there for down here.
Cool. All right. Well,
Wow, somebody changed a whole bunch of stuff on
yeah,
here.
right.
So right here under your cameras,
Oh, cool. Okay.
somebody changed. Wow, somebody had a good time up here.
All right. Well, that'll work.
Okay, holler if you need anything. Might
All
be
right.
a fun day.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, can you hear me? Yep. Cool. Okay. All right. And I think that there's lights now in Burley, so maybe there's some people there. Burley, can you hear me? Cool. Okay. All right. Well, hey, let's review this morning, and I'll put up this video. I will put up this video today when I get right after class, so that you can either review it yourself, or so that you can, or so that people who aren't here today can watch it. Okay. Here we go. All right, I hope you all had a great weekend. Let's just talk about these, see where we're at. I'm going to get that person, cut that down. Let's do this over here. Okay. Let me share with Zoom. Screen one. And then we'll talk about a couple of things and we'll get into review. Okay. So we are week 12. Holy cow, week 12. That's crazy. Okay, so we're at week 12. We have a Unit 3 exam this week. I hope that you all got my email and or the announcement last night. So the idea is that we will review today, and then I'll post this video, and you all can watch it again if you want. You can use it as a way to review for the exam, whatever you need to do. But the exam now opens on Wednesday. Okay, so the exam will be open Wednesday. I think it opens at midnight. So I mean, if you wanted to Wednesday at midnight, you could get on, and I'm talking like Tuesday night rolls into midnight, and then you could take the exam if you wanted to. Anyway, it will open Wednesday night. It'll be open until Sunday night at 11:59. At 11:59, it'll shut off. Hopefully, that gives you enough time that you can find a time to do that. Friday is then set aside for you to take it. So if you can't take it any other time, Friday, you should be able to use this time to take that exam. Okay. So get out and do it, but you can do it anytime between Wednesday and Sunday night. So we will not have class Friday. That means that this week we will not have class on Wednesday because of Veterans Day, and on Friday so that you all can take the exam. Okay. That's the idea. So, and I'll send out an email as well, letting everybody else who's not here today know that we will not be having class on Friday. So with that, this week we're in week 12. The following week will be week 13, and then we're into Thanksgiving. Like I told you last week, in the past we have done. I've required things over Thanksgiving, and that's usually when people take the opportunity not to do things, which is totally fine. So this year I built it in so that there isn't anything. Okay. What I would suggest is if you are missing assignments or if you're missing anything, I would suggest using this week to do that, to get caught up if you're missing anything. Okay. Everything is open through the end of the semester. So you'd have a couple more weeks to be able to do that. Okay. Then we'll roll back, we'll come back, we'll do week 15. As of right now, we're coming back after Thanksgiving. Okay. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But in case it doesn't, we're there. Let's say that for some reason, administration decided that we shouldn't come back after Thanksgiving. You'd only have 1 week, and I would post videos, or we could do Zoom meetings or whatever we needed to do for 1 week while you prepared. So with that in mind, you'd have week 13 with chapter 10, nothing over Thanksgiving. And then week 15 is chapter 11. Then week 16, we come back, we review. And we would review Monday and Wednesday, and then have Friday off for you to take the exam. This is not finals week. This is week 16. Okay. Now I do this on purpose so that by Sunday night at midnight, this exam is finished. And the week of finals week, you can study for whatever exams you have left. Okay. So finals week, we will not be here. We will not be taking exams. This class will be done Sunday night, the week of finals week. Okay. So Sunday night, you'll be finished, and then you can put all of your time and effort into your other exams. Okay. Hopefully that works for you all. I think it's the best way. Also, we've front loaded the class so that you only have 2 chapters that you have to go over for the final. Okay. It's not cumulative. It's only after off of these last 2 chapters. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Cool. All right. So that's where we're at. Let's get into a couple of these items. Let's do the first one. The first question has to do with comparing and contrasting the Chinese and Roman empires. So the Han Empire and Rome, you could potentially use the Tang Dynasty as well if you wanted to. Really, I'm looking for the different empires and what that looks like, right? So what are some characteristics that are common of these empires? What are some common characteristics? Yeah, so you have this agriculturally based empires, right, where they grow out of the agriculture and the resources that they're bringing in. Okay, that would be an excellent characteristic to use in answering this question. So agriculturally based, that's how they're going to grow. Okay, it's by, as the population grows, they're needing more resources, so they take over more land because they need that agriculture that's out there to be able to support the growing population. Excellent. Okay, what's another common characteristic? Yeah, Fletcher.
Isn't the authority typically pretty centralized?
Yeah, authority is centralized, right? And here's the thing, in both, if you're talking about the Han Empire and the Roman Empire, it's centralized in one area, and then because it grows too big, it splits to 2. Both of those happen, right? You get 2 empires, or 2 emperors rather, within the one empire. Okay, so that would be another characteristic that's similar. So 2 emperors within the empire, agriculturally based, dual emperors. What's another similar characteristic? Let me give you a big one, and they're different, but they're the same. Okay, which is control of trade. So control of trade in the Han Empire, you have control of the Silk Road. In the Roman Empire, you do have control of the Silk Road, but it's really about that control of the Mediterranean, right? So in both areas, you're controlling trade, and those empires controlling trade are controlling anything coming in and out of the empire. That means they're controlling money, goods, taxation, right? They're controlling everything coming in and out of the empires. So characteristics of empires, those are three. Can anybody think of anything else that, I mean, there's a lot, but we need to talk about three. So agriculture would be one, agriculturally based collection of resources, right? Trade, centralized authority. What about large militaries? Right? Large militaries would be another characteristic. Both the Han Empire and the Roman Empire both had large militaries. Now, the Han Empire disbands theirs, right? That would be a characteristic that is contrasting with Rome. Rome keeps theirs, they professionalize it. Another characteristic is global warming or climate change, right? Climate change is what really starts that collection of resources. Okay. So let's get to differences. Differences, although they both have large militaries, they both also, the Roman Empire keeps theirs and makes theirs a professional military, where the Han Dynasty does not. If we talk about the Tang Dynasty, they have a small military, but it turns on them at the Lashan Rebellion, right? So, which could be a similarity in the fall of both. If you, I mean, honestly, if you're talking about militaries, I would probably stay with that the Han Dynasty disbands their military and the Roman Empire keeps theirs. Okay. The Roman Empire is much larger than the Han Empire. What else? What are some contrasting characteristics that you see? Fletcher.
Maybe that Rome was more multicultural than the Han Dynasty.
Yeah, that's an interesting, and that I think that you would have had to parse out through the reading, right? We didn't really talk a lot about that. But yeah, if you're talking about it, the Roman Empire is a lot more diverse than the Han Empire is. And part of that is that they're taking over a lot of different groups of people, whereas the Han Dynasty, most of those people are Chinese, which is why they continue to suggest that they're Chinese today, right? That they're Han Chinese, that somehow they reach back that far. Okay. Which is possible. I'm not saying that it's not entirely possible. Okay.
Religious differences.
Yes, Kyle, awesome. So religious differences, that's a great contrasting characteristic, right? You have, although both polytheistic, you're going to start to see that Christianity takes over in the Roman Empire. We're seeing Buddhism taking over in Asia. Okay. But there's other religions, and you could talk about those. We're going to talk about those in the second question, but that is definitely a contrasting characteristic that you could use. Okay. If we're talking about the significance of this, why? Well, if I was talking about significance, I would suggest that third paragraph really should be that you can see the growth of, this would be my significance. If you find something else significant, please use it. But my significance would be, regardless that there are some contrasting differences, but contrasting characteristics between these two empires, that really both of them seem to grow up out of the same ideas, which means that it doesn't matter where you're at. You're seeing kind of this global idea of empires building up for the same reasons, right? Even if you want it, we're talking about empires of China and Rome, but you could also talk about what's going on in the Americas. Now, it's not the same, right? That there's a huge contrast between those empires and sub-Saharan Africa and America, right? They're much smaller. They're agrarian societies. They're linked villages that have an overarching emperor, not even emperor. I mean, it's just a leader that's over these smaller areas. So you could talk about that if you wanted to, but I would suggest that what you're seeing is this growth of empires out of climate change, and that the similarities are the significance. It doesn't matter where you're at on the planet, this all seems to be happening right around the same time. Okay, that's what I would suggest is the significance. If you see something else, in fact, if you see that there is a significant piece to the contrast, then use it. I mean, I don't have any problem with that, right? I want to see what it is that you think throughout the reading or lectures or whatever, that you found something that you think is important. Okay. Okay. That is question 1. Question 2 is about universalizing religions. The biggest thing here, you need to explain universalizing religions and how they grew in Europe and East Asia. So we're talking about, I would suggest not to use all of them. Choose one or two. Obviously, Christianity is one. Islam, we had President Fisher here on Friday, talked about Islam. You could use that. I would use Buddhism. If you wanted to use Taoism, maybe some of the philosophical ideas that are going on in the Americas or sub-Saharan Africa, you could definitely use those pieces as well. But really what we want to talk about with universalizing religions are the 3 big ones, which is Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay, those are the 3 universalizing religions, right? So explaining those pieces. Really, all 3 of them have this idea of giving your will to God, right? All 3 of them push the idea of being kind to one another. All 3 of them see a singular prophet who you have to go through to get to God, whether it's Buddha, Muhammad, or Jesus, right? All 3 of them have this piece that they have to, in order for you to get to God. Those stories are all similar in some ways. What's interesting is if you're contrasting them, right? They all talk about one another, but all of the religions, and I'm not saying the people, I'm not talking about Jesus, Muhammad, or Buddha. All 3 of them, though, talk about the other as prophets, and the religions see them as not being the Messiah, we'll say. Okay. When talking about this, I would explain that. And then the second half of this question is, why didn't these religions take off in other areas? And I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa and the Americas, right? We talk about that there's other things going on here. If you're talking about the Americas, you have, it is based on animals. It's still polytheistic, though that is a big thing that I would also bring up, that these universalizing religions take religion from being polytheistic to monotheistic, right? So from many gods to just one, whereas now sub-Saharan Africa, you still have many, and in the Americas, you still have many. They're more naturally based, right? In animals in the Americas and nature in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. So those would be the contrasting issues that I would talk about. But what is going on in these other places? If I was answering a question, I would say that they're more isolated, right? I mean, some of these places are not on the Silk Road. In fact, we're not getting to the Americas until 1000. 1000 CE is when the Vikings start to come this direction. So you're not getting Christianity down into the Americas. You're getting Islam getting into Africa, but it's mostly along the coast. It's not into the interior. Okay, so they're more isolated. I would also suggest that you have these large urban centers along the Silk Road, and that's making it easier for these universalizing religions to gain followers, where you're not getting that in the smaller agrarian societies in the Americas and in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. The significant piece. I think that the significant piece for universalizing religions and maybe why it's not happening in other parts of the area or other parts of the world is how interesting these universalizing religions are when it comes to helping the poor, giving of your substances or your resources, right? Like these are big pieces that start to equalize people. And when you're talking about equalizing people gravitate to that, right? Especially lower classes, people of at the social hierarchy at the bottom, those people are gravitating towards these religions because it benefits them. But also it's that warmth, right? We talked about the warmth that it's helping them to feel like, hey, this religion isn't like the other religions that seem more cold or distant because these gods are not here, right? All of these people were here. Buddha was here. Muhammad was here. Jesus was here. And so it makes it more humanistic. Okay. This also gives us a shift in thinking about humanistic characteristics. And we didn't talk a lot about that, but if it was something that you're interested in writing about, you definitely could, right? We're going to start to see this shift away from kind of this cold idea and more humanistic ideas of knowing, humanistic ideas of dealing with people. Okay. Now that's my own, I mean, you can use whatever. Okay, but that's explaining universalizing religions. Any question on question 2? Any way I can help you with that? Okay. Let's go to question 3. Question 3 is compare the contrast and shifts in Islam, Buddhism, and Christianity, and what conclusions can be made by their similarities and differences. So this is going to be talking specifically about the shifts away from polytheism to monotheism. Okay, I would definitely talk about that shift. I would also definitely talk about the way that these religions look at people. Okay, so this is really where I would talk about the idea of helping the poor, giving of your resources, and that warmth, the warmth of these religions. Okay. There's a lot of similarities and differences here, and I think we could really talk a lot about the the differences. I don't think that that's a difficult thing to do, right? I mean, Islam sees Jesus as a prophet, but not God, right? Buddhism sees both of these people as prophets, but Buddha does not believe that he's God. He believes that he's just a prophet, that he's pushing these ideas. Okay. You get 3 big factions that come out of Islam at the death of Muhammad, right? Sunnis, Sufis, and Shiite. And those all break into these factions that we see today. But I can't even say, I mean, a similarity is going to be that we see that with Christianity as well, right? Christianity breaks into multiple factions. And then you get the Protestant Reformation, which is a protest, right? A protest of Catholicism. It just takes a little bit longer for that to happen, right? I mean, this happens at the death of Muhammad. Buddhism doesn't really do that. Buddhism kind of just is, right? Like it just kind of keeps going, and people kind of just they like the idea. What I think would be something that I would talk about this shift is that all of these religions seem to be growing up within their own communities, right? Within the communities that they are in, they're helping those people to kind of come together. So Christianity is working in Western Europe. You're seeing Islam through Saudi Arabia, into Turkey, into Africa, and you're seeing Buddhism really coming out of India into East Asia, right? So you're getting these kind of these pockets of people, and it's helping them within their own sphere. That would be the significance. Okay. It's helping them within their own sphere. Any questions there? That one might, I think that one should be easy, but I can see where it could potentially be difficult. Let's go to 4, and then maybe we can come back. So 4 is your discussion from this weekend, okay? Which is, I mean, I think it's verbatim. Historians argue about the Dark Ages versus late antiquity. What are the major arguments here, and why is there a discrepancy? And then insert yourself into the argument by picking a side, providing evidence for your opinion. So this should be more involved than what you just wrote, right? Hopefully you've seen what your classmates wrote. Hopefully you have built a better idea around this idea of Dark Ages versus late antiquity, and that you can argue that. What I would suggest is still break it out into the 3 paragraphs, right? So the first paragraph, kind of explaining what's going on. The second paragraph, explain your argument. And the third paragraph, provide the significance. Why is that important? Why should I care about Dark Ages versus late antiquity? I read some really good responses this weekend. I thought you all did a great job in explaining where it is. But that significant piece should be, look, I lean this direction because of X, right? I lean to the Dark Ages because that's what my high school history teacher told me, and that's what I'm going to go with. Or I go with late antiquity because I can see that maybe there was a lot of different things going on, and I like the idea of late antiquity over the Dark Ages. Okay, but there needs to be some sort of evidence there, evidence-based, that you are explaining why you're choosing one or the other. And hopefully that's coming from the reading or some sort of idea that you've read through that you're like, hey, I like this. I think that's the best way. Okay. You're supposed to, this question is hopefully getting you to think like a historian. And then you will see that it's not as easy as you might think, right? That once you start to make claims, all of a sudden you can find a lot of evidence that back you up, but there is some evidence out there that doesn't back you up. Okay. And that's where we're at. So this one shouldn't be that difficult, especially since you all just answered a question about this, but that's what I would suggest. Talking about the Dark Ages, late antiquity, what are the major arguments? So laying that out, picking a side, and explaining why your side is right, okay? And this is just to me. Nobody else is going to see this. So if you were out there and you're like, hey, Fletcher wrote this in his, and I think that he's an idiot and I don't like that, and here's the reason why. Or Riley wrote this and I don't really like that, and I'm the only one that's gonna read it. You can totally do that if you want. I'm not gonna mark you down. Although Fletcher and Riley are probably right. All right. I think Kyle's was really good, where he told us that he was older, so that's why he sees it that way.
And I totally dummied it and didn't even finish my reply. I hit the subscribe button and kind of left all that out.
Really?
As to why I went for the late antiquity.
Oh, well, I like that you were like, well, I'm older, so I see it differently. And I was like, well, nobody can argue with that.
Well, yeah, really, you grow up always seeing the Dark Ages as like a medieval time. So it's always like, Sir Lancelot, medieval knights, and it's always rainy and wet and muddy and nasty and death and darkness all the time. So to have a different perspective on that and see more of a transition time and look at it like that versus being a dark time. It seems to me that I would go more to the late antiquity side just for that reason.
Yeah, yeah. Fletcher, what were you gonna say?
It just sounds like England today.
It just sounds like England today, right? Exactly. It's just all right. So there's 4 questions. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to talk about before I let you go? It seems like it's a little early, but I just want to make sure that you all have this. Honestly, this is the 3rd exam. Let me explain to you what exactly happens here. Generally, you all are worried, and so the first exam is really good. The second exam, you're like, well, that wasn't too bad. I can do the second exam. And then some of you get lower grades. And then the third exam, you're like, oh man, I got to finish this out. And you'll get a pretty decent grade on exam 3. And then rolls around exam 4, and everybody is like, I'm so worried about other things that you literally, I'm not even joking. People start writing one really long paragraph, or, like you break in like 3 paragraphs, like 1-sentence paragraphs. And honestly, that happens every semester. That's the way that it works. So I really don't have any issue. I think that you all are on top of things. It's not midterm. You're less stressed at the moment because of all of that. But come week 4, or exam 4, then everybody's like, I can't do this anymore, which is why I've backed it a week so that hopefully that works. But it has worked in the past, but also I get that it's the end of the semester and people are phoning it in. So, okay, please remember, 3 paragraphs are the best way to answer it. Answering the question or setting up the context in that first paragraph, providing the answer to the question in the second paragraph, and providing significance in the third. That really is the best way. It helps me to see that you've outlined it in a certain way, that you've thought about it, right? Also, really simple to get on, and in your first attempt, copy the questions and paste them into a Word doc and work on it at your leisure. That does not bother me. Open book, open note, and that significance piece is the one that I'm really hoping to get out of you, right? I want to see that you have really put some thought into this and that you're thinking about these concepts and these themes. That's what I want. I don't even care if you don't agree with me, right? Like that doesn't have any bearing on your grade whatsoever. I want to see that you have put the time in to really think about these concepts. And even if it's not super in depth, it's generally you get a decent grade if it's not in depth. You get a better grade if it's in depth, right? Like that's what I'm looking for, is that you really thought about it. You can provide evidence from the book. You can provide analysis because you've thought about these things. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. I'm not looking for an answer. And that's the cool part about my classes versus math, right? Like there's a right answer in math. It's super subjective in history. And we get to talk about like, well, what did you see versus what did somebody else see? Okay. And hopefully that's helping you down that path. Like it doesn't matter to me either way. I've had I've had several students over the past 10 years who've tried to tell me that in their significant piece is that Christianity broke out as one of the largest group. And although that's not right, Muslims were actually larger. I can see where in your reading and your way of putting things that's what you see. Okay. I want you to know that you've been thinking about it. Any other questions? Cool. All right. Well, you guys can take off. We will not be here Wednesday because of Veterans Day. Look, do something to celebrate Veterans Day. I always attend my my son's elementary school, and they do a big veterans thing. And honestly, it's elementary school, but it's awesome. And we bring in all the veterans from my little town of Wendell, and the kids sing every single what would it be? I don't know what the song. I would say it's a fight song, but that's a school thing. But anyway, every single song for every branch of military, and it's amazing. Actually, it's really crazy because they have each of the branches stand up and sing to them, and it's good. Anyway, if you can honor a veteran, I would suggest doing that. Veterans Day was Armistice Day to signify the end of World War I, which was 1918. Is that right? Am I right, Fletcher? Holy cow. It's been, we did a big World War I thing here, and I guess it's been 2 years ago. And I was like, no, that was last year, but that was not last year. It was 2 years ago. Anyway, take some time to do that. Friday, we will not be here. This time on Friday will be set aside for you to be able to take the exam. I hope that you do that. If you have any questions or anything that you want clarification on, email me and I will email you a clarification or how I would answer a question or whatever. If you want to stop by my office, totally do that or give me a call. We can talk through it, whatever we need to do. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will see you next Monday. Thanks, Kyle. See you.
See ya.